Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I wanted to just do sort of a quick video that, because I have stuff on Friday, Saturday, I don't know whether this will be the Friday or the Saturday upload, but just wanted to do a video more so about not overreacting to fantasy scores. I know I talked about it in the Indigenous All-Stars versus Fremantle game review, and how a lot of people will probably overreact, and I can show you the statistics behind such overreactions in a way, especially to the Indigenous All-Stars scoring. But yeah, I just wanted to do a video about that, especially with these unofficial ones and the official ones coming up in the next week or two, is we are looking for role and which team they're in, if it's an intra-club. And their role specifically, and so we're looking at that rather than their actual point scoring. And the less that you can actually get suckered into it, I feel like, is the better. The more that you can take notes and explain your reasoning behind it, rather than just he looked better or he scored better. If you can say, oh yeah, he had a better role or a more fancy inducive role, that's going to be better to being able to explain the point scoring for itself, but also explain the reason why they have more upside and more value in fantasy. But yeah, that's sort of the video, and I just wanted to go through key indicators of this. If we look at DFS and we look at the fantasy big boys, probably going to be the best way to show this. I wish that you could just go IS guys, the Indigenous All-Stars guys. But obviously can't, but we can show the, if this will load in a second here, if Simpkin's going to probably turn up here, isn't he? Simpkin, yes he will. If we look at Simpkin and his ownership, February 15th, if we look at this game here, this was played on the February 15th at 7:30. If we look at his ownership, at 8 o'clock, it was at 1.9, and then suddenly the next day it was at 2.7, and you can see the rise there. He's already basically gone up, what's that, about 180% he's gone up about that much in terms of ownership, I would think. Yeah, that looks roughly about right, 3.2. That's about right. But maybe a little bit lower, 175. But yeah, he's gone up basically almost doubled in terms of his, tripled in terms of his ownership since the All-Star game started. And yeah, it's just, I think, a little overreaction, because if you look at Jai Simpkin's stats and you look at them, and I almost tried to show this in a comment on a YouTube rather than the actual video itself, but you can see this. He's not going to get 80% CBAs. If he does, I will be utterly shocked. But if he doesn't, he's shown 53 and 60. That if we take that into consideration, obviously a couple of injury games there, but that would take his CBA percentage down if you actually look at it. But yeah, you can just see that in these games here, if you take out that game there, but if you take out pretty much all of his high scoring games, let's look at his basically his tons. What's his lowest ton in terms of his time spent in the midfield? If we look at that, because you're probably looking for him to go and play that on-ball role, but you can basically see here that his tons, 94%, that's a large percentage midfield time. Let's look at it, 90% there, 71, 70, and then this one as well. His lowest percentage of CBA is to get a score of 100. Looks to me, he was playing 100% dog, wow. 100% midfield time, that's crazy. That's ridiculously crazy, to the point that I'm almost seeing, is that actually correct? But yeah, you can just see how midfield heavy his time was to get these hundreds. The lowest one that I'm seeing right now is this 52%. That's the lowest one that I've seen so far, and the rest are in the 60s. If we look at that, in terms of the CBAs here, you'll see that that's the reason why Jai Simpkin, I think, is a massive overreaction here to his score in the Indigenous All-Stars game. He was absolutely magnificent, but is he going to do that in the North Melbourne side when you've got Harry Sheezel there, when you've got all these other ball users there that are going to take up scoring? If we look at just the Indigenous All-Stars team, you'll see Jason Horne-Francis, but then 70s all round. There was no ruckman taking up the points that that you would usually see someone of the caliber of a Tristan Cherry take up. Tristan Cherry might limit him by another 5 disposals. He's probably not going to score 1 goal too regularly. You're probably going to see Caleb Daniel take a lot of disposals that Humphreys and other guys here are not going to really, that haven't really taken. If you look at the disposal count, 30 from Simpkin, then 20, 20, 20, you're not going to see that, I don't think, in terms of the North Melbourne side. I think you're going to see Sheasel at 25, 30 odd touches a game. You're going to see Caleb Daniel up there. You're going to see LDU up there as well. So all of these guys are probably going to take a lot more disposals off of them. In terms of that, if we look at the disposals as well, I wonder what the likes of the average disposals for North Melbourne was last year. If we look at that and we look at disposals for North Melbourne, they didn't have 380 touches a game. They were more so down, where is it here, 353. They had 353 touches, 215 being, 207 being kicks. If we look back in here, 239, so an extra 32 kicks and an extra, so about 5 or so handballs, something like that. Maybe actually less handballs. No, 4 less handballs. So 35 extra kicks is about 100 extra fancy points in itself. So just shows to me, I think that, because if we look at the opposition averages and we look at disposals, North Melbourne, 356. If we look at the game here, 304. So Freo had 304 disposals, which is actually odd for them, I feel like, in terms of disposals. Freo are up around that 367, so they're about 60 disposals short of what they were doing last year. If we look at last 10, just for an example, and I'm just showing you how one game can be so much an outlier that you can't really take much influence on the scores or whatever. It's more about the role. If we look at North Melbourne last 10 games, they had 360 disposals, and we know that in here, if we go here, 380, so 20 short. And then if we look at the last 10 for Freo, they were at 358. That's still 50 short on an average scoring basis. And then if we look at opposition averages in that time, look at disposals, you'll see Freo were giving up only 330 odd, so that's a real outlier. And then also North Melbourne, if we were to see it, 350, so they're about 50 short anyway. So it shows Freo underperformed, Indigenous All-Stars overperformed, it looks like. And that's sort of understandable given Freo's midfield had Hayden Young out and had Nat Fyfe out as well, and didn't have Luke Ryan or Alex Pearce. And also they had Walters playing the All-Star game as well for the Indigenous All-Stars. And Indigenous All-Stars is a stacked team of massive talent as well. So they'd probably, if you were to put the Indigenous All-Stars with a competent ruck, they'd probably be a top 4 side. Let's be real here. So yeah, that probably just shows that. So that was more about Jai Simpkin. If we look at the other players, Horn Francis, I don't think is kicking 3 goals regularly, and I wasn't too impressed by the fact that he was doing a lot of non-disposal work and wasn't getting the hands on the pill as much. So that's something I want to watch over pre-season more so. I don't think that's an outlier score, and I'm worried about the possessions not being high enough to build a score. And so there was that. And then looking at the rest of these Indigenous All-Stars, impressed about Lawson Humphreys, but don't know if he necessarily gets that lead role at Geelong with Holmes and Stewart there. And then nothing else. He really surprised a little bit by the limited nature of Wanganeen Malira, but he's going to get an extra 20% time on ground at St Kilda, so not really worried too much about that. And then we go to the Fremantle Doctors, because this is in the game we have. I think there's been probably a little bit of an overreaction on Nathan O'Driscoll and the exact... Well, maybe it's not an overreaction to put him in your side, but maybe it's an overreaction to expect the big scores that people are hopeful for. If we look at the player's summary note, we want to go fancy big boards, and I believe he's got midfield status, so it's a lot easier to just sort of go here. But if we look at this, O'Driscoll was at 2.6% ownership, and he's gone to 8.9. That is, 240 plus 240% or so, is it? So yeah, well, I can actually just look that up. What's it, 8.9 divided by 8.9 divided by 2.6 is, about 240% rise in his ownership. So he's gone up dramatically, much to the same of the likes of a Simpkin, and I understand it why, but I don't like the use of sort of putting a score already on mind with O'Driscoll, especially some people saying he's going to average whatever, like 80, 90, etc. Look, if I was to put a sort of exact score on O'Driscoll, which I don't think you can, if you're looking at this with Nevitt in mind, because they're very, very similar, break even to 42, if they go 75, 80, give or take, then that's a massive win. If we look at it in terms of research here, and then we go to O'Driscoll, you'll see the cash generation. I'm pretty sure I did this with another player that's all very similar price tag. If we just go here and we say, oh yeah, he's going to average 75 in Supercoach. That's realistic enough from a wing, I feel like, because we know wingers generally go 65, 75 in fantasy. If you go 75 in Supercoach, I feel like that's reasonable. By round 6 or 7, he's 355k. You can upgrade that very, very easily and grab 200k there and upgrade a position very, very easily, just one up, one down. So I think it's more realistic to say O'Driscoll's going to go 70, 75 rather than going, oh, he scored 107 in the preseason showcase game. He's going to do that exactly. Obviously, people aren't going to say he's going to do that exactly, but I feel like they've kind of a little bit overstated it, that he just went off in this game, and it's much more of an outlier game than what he's probably going to produce. Sarong, I think, for me, and this was something I took out of this game, was just the positioning of Sarong compared to a Brayshaw, and how I liked it more so in terms of Sarong being able to amass the points compared to a Brayshaw. If we look at Sarong's ownership, it went up a little bit, but it didn't overreact too much. It went up from 6.1 to 7.7, is that? 7.8, yeah, in the last week or so, last 5 or so days. So I think that's a fair assumption, and I think a lot of people are going, he's probably going to be around that 105 to 110 guy. And so they believe that, he'll be able to probably get away, probably not get away to as fast a start as he had in the first 3 or 4 games last year, but he'll be able to finish the season off a lot stronger than he did last year. If we look at just a sneaky little look here, he went to start the year 161, 125, 118, so 134 through the first 3. And then basically, if you look at the rest of the year through here, if we just quickly look at it, you'll see that he averaged for the remainder of the year, he averaged 99.3. If he can raise that to a 105, there's the 5 points of value that you're basically going to get. And obviously, I feel like he'll have these spike games, and it's more about just getting those sort of 110s, 115s more so than the 100s and 90s that he was getting. As you see in the back end of this season, 95, 96, 77, 88, 192, 92, 94. If he can raise those to 105s, it's going to be a lot more valuable. So that's sort of where I wanted to finish this video off. A little bit shorter of a video, and I think this will be the Saturday video, as I'll have content out on the Friday evening for you guys as well, but just sort of a filler video on the Saturday here, explaining my thoughts around not overreacting, especially because we're going to have more data. There's going to be, by the time that this is released, whether it's a Friday or Saturday, there'll be the Sydney versus GWS. You'll have also the Brisbane versus that trifecta game or whatever is going on there, which that could lead to multiple overreactions. Like, just looking at the fantasy stats for the Crows intra club, you've got Draper at 90 for a full game. He's not going to do that average regularly. Dawson at 84, that would be an overreaction. Soligo at 91. These guys, Curtin at 70. I don't think Curtin's going to average 70 from a third tall role this year. Looking at the other games here and other stats here, do we have anything like where is it? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Just scrolling through here, like Mackenzie's not going to average 100. If Mackenzie averaged 110, well, then that would be quite a lot. But obviously, we get the look in round 0, and he's got the tougher matchup in Sydney, who are tough-ish for midfielders. So I don't think he's going to do that. And I don't think you're going to see Myers and Holmes score 100 in 3 quarters, etc. So you got to taper those sort of reactions there in terms of these guys are all playing against differing opposition levels. Like you've got a lot of the VFL guys or the guys that are going to regularly play in the VFL playing, etc. You're trying out different things, etc. So yeah, it's just a very much need to just sort of wait and watch and we'll get a really good look in round 0 about what's going to happen. But yeah, that was sort of the video there. If you did enjoy it, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. And if you're listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there. And I'll see you guys probably, I guess this would be the Saturday upload. See you guys on Sunday for probably a video very similar to this and how not to overreact to the scores that we've seen. Or something or other of that regard. Maybe the rookies, etc. as we're in maybe a little bit of a rookie crisis at the moment. But I'll see you guys then. Bye, guys.